Quazi here, and in this video, I want to share with you the mirror principle of reality and how reality is actually created and how there's a delay time between our thoughts. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why we keep staying stuck in Groundhog Day and why sometimes when you visualize, when you do your internal work, sometimes it manifests, but other times it doesn't go your way. This took me a really long time to figure out. I really want you to stay around till the end of this video because by the end, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 keys to completely overcome this and to never have this happen again. Before I begin this video, I wanted to quickly announce that a few spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me for the Reality Mastery program. So please wait till the end of the video for the announcement on that. And with that, let's get started with this video. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the mirror of reality and whatever this means. And how, there's this mirror that reflects whatever we have in our internal world, and the reflection is what you're seeing in the material external world. And the biggest problem is that sometimes we're able to control this, other times it's completely out of our control. So the discovery that I've made, and it took me a long time to figure this out, really cut down the unpredictability and got it to a point where every single area of your life, whatever you choose, can predictably be manifested, okay? So first and foremost, what I want you to know is that every action or every karma literally translates to action. Every action is recorded in the eternity archives or the infinite consciousness. Any single thought you have, any single word you say, even the tiniest strand of hair, nothing goes unaccounted for. Okay, so every little action is going to be accounted for. I really want you to remember this because this is going to make a lot of sense later on as we get in the video. So now what I want to share with you is that the mirror of reality reflects with a delay. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, the mirror of reality is kind of like this. Let's say you have a mirror here and you have a person in front of the mirror, Bob. Now, Bob forms a reflection in this mirror. In the mirror of reality, Bob is the image, okay? And this is the reflection. So the image is what we're presenting with our thoughts, with our attitudes, with our actions to the mirror. Okay, so this is the internal action. And the reflection is what you're seeing in your external reality. So this is the external action or karma. So the 2 biggest mistakes that people make are, first of all, they start to form good attitudes and this mirror will start to reflect it. But the problem is in reality's mirror, because the nature of reality is so inert, right? It takes a delay for it to arrange itself materially, okay? So if you raise your hand in front of the mirror of reality, reality is going to take a little bit of time for it to arrange itself and to raise its hand. So depending on the complexity of the goal you're trying to manifest, how big it is, and the distance and lifelines from where you are and what you'd like to manifest, that's what influences this delay time you're seeing. So I raise my hand up now. Reality's mirror will take a little bit of time to raise its hand. But the problem is we've been so wired for instant gratification. We want to see it now. We want to see the results now. So when we don't see the results, we start to doubt ourselves. We start to move a step back. So this is exactly what happens when you doubt yourself as well. You're actually taking a step back because now you start off with a good attitude, right? You present this good image in front of the mirror. You're like, yes, everything's great. I'm really grateful for what I have. I want to get this and I want to manifest this. Everything's going my way. All positive, positive, positive. So reality starts to reflect that and say, wow, okay, you're grateful. Let me give you more things to be grateful for, but just give me a little bit of time, right? So reality starts to begin the process, initiate the process of arranging all things materially to help you manifest your goal. But the problem is when time goes by and you're not seeing the goal be manifested, then you just start doubting yourself and you're like, oh shit, it's not working. Why is it not working? It's not working. And then reality's mirror says, it's not working? Okay, it's not working. It just reflects what your internal attitudes are. So then it begins to reflect that with a delay. So whatever progress it made, it starts to retract. Okay? This is going to make more sense as we go throughout the video. I'm going to share with you a graph that explains it. So I want you to know right now that the two biggest mistakes people make and why we're not able to manifest what we want and why we start to move backwards and stay stuck in this inevitable Groundhog Day, this loop, is because first of all, we doubt ourselves and we start to form a negative attitude because we get too impatient. Impatience is the biggest one. And number two, what we do is we try to manipulate the mirror by physically trying to move it. Like imagine the kind of insanity. You want to change a reflection in the mirror, but what you do is when it doesn't happen, you grab this mirror and you're trying to change the reflection by trying to manipulate this mirror. Instead of just trying to change the image you present to the mirror, you actually physically try to move the mirror. This is what we do when we don't change our internal attitudes, but then we start to take action. It's like the same person doing the strategies. This is why you see a lot of people start businesses and they have 10, 20 failed businesses and they always fail at entrepreneurship. And then they begin to see that all the strategies and all of the tactics, all of the business opportunities weren't the problem. They were the problem because they didn't even change the image to begin with. If you have a terrible image in front of the mirror, no matter what you do to this mirror, it is going to reflect that image. Okay? That's the harsh reality. This is why some people find one business opportunity and get super successful with it very, very quick. And other people try a million different businesses and they're not able to be successful. This is why one person can become so successful very, very quickly and another person takes so long because they move one step forward and one step back with impatience. So the second biggest problem is that we try to manipulate the mirror because we think that action is king. We think that, it's all about massive action. And that's because of this massive action culture that there is now. We try to manipulate the mirror. I really, really want you to remember these two keys because if you remember this, and if you remember this at the right time, you're going to snap out of it and wake up and know what to do exactly. So as I mentioned to you, by the end of this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 keys that's going to help you with that. Okay, so now I want to share with you something that's going to make a lot more sense of this and this general delay principle. So essentially, in this model of reality, okay, we have 2 different parts. We have our internal world and the external world. The internal world is the thoughts and attitudes that you have within, and the external world is what reflection you're seeing as a result of that. Now, as we know, our internal world creates what we're seeing in the external world, not the other way around. This is cause and effect, okay? The thoughts, attitudes, feelings we have today create the reality we see tomorrow. I want you to remember that. So now let's look at this graph. On the y-axis, we have state, okay? And on the x-axis, we have time t. So if we were to really envision this, right? Let's say I have my internal world first. So in black, I'm going to do the internal world. And I'm going to make this graph. Now, what I mean by that is this. Essentially, this is what's happening. Our state in our internal world, so let's say this is internal, initially starts off very, very high. We have a high state here. We begin to manifest this goal. We're trying to manifest this goal and we have a good internal state. We feel great. We're like, yes, I'm grateful. Everything's going my way. I'm going to manifest that money. I'm going to get the clients in my business. So we start off feeling great and we feel hopeful. But now, over time, we don't see the results immediately because remember, the external world reflects this with a delay. So if we were to graph the external world on this graph as well, what it would look like is this. So we have okay? This is the external. Now, why this is the case is simply because of the delay time. So if you look at this, when we begin to manifest our goal, let's say you want more business, you want to increase your revenue in your business, right? You initially begin at this point and you are at high state. You feel great, you're hopeful, but as time passes, what happens is, your external world initially begins at zero because now you don't have the result you want. You're wanting to manifest it. So now, reality is actually beginning to reflect this now with a delay, okay? So when you hit the trough of your internal world, because as time passes, you start to get depressed. You're like, oh shit, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? A month later, let's say initially you feel great and then you still feel great, but then your internal state just deteriorates because you're not seeing the result. Right now, the external world's starting to influence how you feel within because you're looking outside, you're like, oh, where's the result? Is it happening? Is it not? So when you don't see it, that's when you start to feel low. But externally, this is what's happening. Reality is arranging it here because you feel good here. It's arranging it with a delay. So the thoughts and attitudes you have here start to manifest themselves here. So this is what we call the delay time. Okay, so if I were to really graph this, the difference in this is delta t. Delta t is our delay time. Delay time. Now, what does this delta t symbolize? Well, the delta t symbolizes the time we had the initial intention of what we wanted to manifest to the time it takes for it to show up in physical reality. Okay? I really, really want you to remember this. If you understand this, this is going to change everything. Like, you'll never see reality creation the same way ever again. So, let's say at t equals 0, right? Let's say this is t equals 0. We form our thoughts and attitudes. We're like, okay, I've learned about manifestation. I've learned about the law of attraction, visualization, all of that. Now I'm going to start to use this to manifest what I want. So initially you go about this journey. You start to visualize. You have all the right attitudes. And as time passes, what happens is you're not seeing the results. Okay, month 1, you're not seeing the results. You still keep up that good attitude, but it's not at the same intensity as you initially had. And then you just keep going down, you keep going down. You're still feeling good about it, But at t equals, let's say, critical, right? This is the critical time because now your internal state is plummeted and you're almost giving up hope and you almost lose hope of it ever happening. But what's interesting is most of the time you'll see that just when you're about to give up, it shows up. Just when you're about to give up and you're about to lose hope, you're like, shit, this isn't happening. You completely let go. That's when it happens. Okay? There are other factors to this, like you putting too much importance on it. But funny enough, that's when it happens because that's delta t. The time it takes for you to really go down and feel shitty, that's when it happens. But what's interesting is that now that you've gotten the result at t equals critical, right? T equals critical is when the result shows up. And t equals critical is when you feel the shittiest. But now that you've gotten the results, you're starting to feel good. But now reality is actually beginning to reflect that, the shitty state you felt with a delay. So this is when the result goes away again. So let's say t equals critical is when you hit the 10K month in your business finally, right? But now next month, let's say t equals, 2 months, month 2. Let's say critical is month 1. So t equals critical is month 1. Month 1, you hit the 10K month because at month t equals 0, you had the good attitude. And at delta t, it shows up. The 10K month shows up. But then now because you felt shitty, you're like, oh no, the 10K month is never going to show up. You've lost hope because you've never seen it happen. Last day of the month, someone gives you 10K. A client joins your program for 10K. But now because you feel shitty, what happens is this begins to reflect with a delay as well. So at t equals month 2, what happens is now your external world deteriorates and you have a $0 month, right? So now that you're feeling good again, this cycle repeats itself over and over again. That's why you have the inconsistent months in your business. You feel good 1 month and you're like, okay, it's going to happen. But then you lose that good feeling because you start to look outside at what's happening. The biggest reason why this happens is because our internal state of being is dependent. Okay, so this model is reflecting what it's like when our internal state of being is dependent on what we see outside. So if we had a graph to external, this is what's happening. Our internal state, this is what naturally happens. What you have within starts to influence what's without. But then this model is where our external state of being starts to reflect what we have, what we feel internally. When we see the 10K months, that's when we feel good. When we see the 10K month at T equals critical or month 1, that's when we start to feel good again, right? But it takes us a little bit of time to feel good. Do you see what's happening? So this is the insanity. This is why people keep staying stuck in the same loop and it just goes up and down in a sinusoid every single time. I hope this makes sense. If you truly understand this, just rewind back to this video, start up again, and watch this again and again until it makes sense. Because if you understand this, dude, nothing's going to touch you. You're going to become untouchable. And now I want to share with you the 3 keys for you to overcome this. Okay? So key number 1 is you got to realize this delay. It's as simple as that. Realize the delay time and how it affects it. Realize this. Once you realize this, then you'll know where to intercept, where to become aware, and realize the 2 biggest pitfalls as well. First of all, people starting to doubt themselves. When you get here and you don't see the results, you start to doubt yourself and your internal state of being goes down. Okay? And because that happens, now reality reflects it with a delay. And now, month 2, you have a $0 month. That's why entrepreneurs have this inconsistent revenue months in their businesses. Right? Number 2, you got to keep your internal state unpolluted. What do I mean by that? Learn to draw state from within. Learn to not need validation for how you feel within, but rather understand the cyclical nature of life. We want to erase this completely unless it serves us. Okay? This is what I mean when I say your internal state is now unaffected, unpolluted by what's without. So if you truly, you'll see that the greatest businessmen, the greatest people in any field of their lives, they're not dependent on what it's like, what the outside looks like. People who've been in business for long enough, they learn to see the trends and patterns. So they're like, oh, this is just normal. So their internal state of being is no longer affected by what they're seeing. They don't become results oriented. They become process oriented. Okay. So that's key number 2, what you got to understand. The last and final key is probably going to be one of the most important ones. And this is having awareness of your internal state. Okay? What I mean by that is simply this. When you get to a point where you find that you start complaining, you're like, oh shit, it's not working. And more predominantly, let's say 51% of your thoughts are going towards focusing on the negative and not what's happening, rather than what you actually do want. That's when you're in trouble. Okay? That's when you got to consciously shift those thoughts into what is working and what you want instead. If you look at the most famous people, even though they came from the shittiest places, they were motivated by resistance, but eventually they moved up to desire and what they wanted instead. And, people who were on the search and started to achieve extraordinary things, they weren't focusing on lack. They weren't thinking about what they don't have, but rather what they want instead. This is why it's so powerful to have such a clear, concrete vision and get yourself, your internal state, to a conviction of that vision, having it independent of what your current situation is. Okay? And with that, I conclude this video. I really, really want you to start this video over and look through it again, okay? Because I want this to make sense for you. And if you understand this, nothing will affect you. You'll become untouchable in your internal world, okay? I'm also going to do a quick recap right now. So what we discussed was the mirror principle of reality and how the image that you present to this mirror reflects itself with a delay. So the first and foremost thing is that every single action is recorded in the infinite consciousness. Not a single strand of hair goes unaccounted for, okay? Number 2 is the mirror will reflect everything with this delay. And the two biggest mistakes people make is that instead of trying to change the image they present to it, people first try to move the mirror and manipulate it, instead of changing themselves. And who approaches, these business ideas and entrepreneurship, they try different tactics and strategies, knowing full well that they're not fit to have this business right now. They need to first become fit to sustain a business. This is why in the Reality Mastery program, we have people who start off and they try all of these business ideas and it doesn't work, but then they come in, fix their internal world, get themselves in the right state, and then they go back to the same old business ideas, and then it starts to catch fire. They start to catch momentum. They become wildly successful with it. Okay? That's why it's important to fix the person that's running the business. At the end of the day, it's the who that matters. You could give a robot or someone terrible a job to do, and they would do it terribly. If you gave someone great a job to do, they'll do it greatly, right? It's who that touches it. And to really give you an example of this in my personal life, in my personal business, I would feel really good when I would get clients, but then what would happen is as time would go by and I wouldn't get clients, I would feel bad again. But then as soon as I hit that tipping point, the critical time, as I showed you here, of feeling bad, then reality would reflect what I was feeling before. I would feel good before. So at T equals critical, month 1, I would start to do my 10K months, my 20K, my 50K months. But then because I felt shitty, I would have weeks with no clients. So it would be like ups and downs until I learned to control my internal state and it became consistent. I learned to take a step back and not be so tied into what result I'm seeing, but rather what I do want to create in the longer term instead. Okay, so just to really explain this graph, we have two different graphs here. We first have the solid bold black line is the internal world, what you feel. At T equals 0, you begin to feel really good and you're hopeful about the result you want. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do the 10K months this month. And then what happens is your external world starts to reflect this with a delay. You begin at 0, but then over time as it goes up, it reflects this, and at T equals critical, it starts to show you the result. But now, because it took you so long, it took you delta T to see the result, what happens is now you feel shitty. But then when you see the result, you start to feel good again. But then reality starts to reflect that shitty feeling again with a delay. That's why you keep going up and down in your business, in your love life, in every single area of your life. Because you begin to doubt yourself and you move backwards. And finally, the 3 keys to really make sense of this are as follows. First of all, realize that there is a delay time. If you realize and understand this fully, you'll become untouchable. Like you'll understand that, okay, this is exactly what's happening. I just got to keep my internal state up. The problem is with all of these things, we just forget. If you just remembered in time, there wouldn't be a problem. Number 2, keep your internal world unpolluted with what you see in the external. We want to erase this line unless it serves us. So what do I mean by unless it serves us? Well, if you're seeing something good, you can use that to propel your internal world. Let's say you see the 10K months here, you can use that to propel the internal world. But when you don't see the 10K months, learn to erase this line and just keep yourself the way that you would want to be. Okay? The best thing to do is keep your internal world unpolluted anyways. Number 3, have awareness of your internal state. Learn to see when you're deteriorating here. Okay, learn to see when you're about to go into complaining mode and you're losing faith and you're losing hope and it's not going to happen, and predominantly 51% of your thoughts are focused on what's not happening rather than what you actually do want. Okay, and with that I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. Please leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this, if you want me to make more videos like this, and also any potential video topics you have in mind. And if you're new to the channel, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And as I mentioned before, I'm super excited to announce that the free one-to-one consult with me for the Reality Mastery program is now open. We have a couple of spots open. My calendar's been fully booked up. And if you're interested, make sure you click on the link below to sign up for a consult to see if we'd be a good fit to work together in the program. Please only sign up if you're looking to work together in taking your life to the next level in a program with me. And the kind of people we have who've been very, very successful are as follows. First of all, if you're a professional, you're looking to transition out, start up your own business, get to financial freedom, you're sick and tired of the conditioned 9-to-5 W-2 job, then this is for you. People who are already existing entrepreneurs who are stuck in a certain revenue level, they're wanting to scale up. They want to go from the 20K month, you're the 30K month, but you want to scale up to 50, 60, 100K months. Then this is for you as well. And to really break that glass ceiling that you're not seeing and something that's holding you back. People who are high performers, people who are creatives. You're a director, you're an artist, and you want to take your career to the next level. This is for you as well. So if that sounds like you, please make sure you take opportunity of this, sign up for the consult to see if it would be a good fit to work together. And also a free Facebook group is available for you to take advantage of. The link for that is in the description as well. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Peace.